Midterms are here. For this week's high card, the tutors have some important exam preparation strategies for you. So stick around and maybe take some notes. This episode is Tutors Talking Tests, and you are watching Playing the Ace. First up, we have Diego, our graduate assistant tutor for chemistry and psychology, and Bernard, our accounting and economics tutor. Diego, what study strategies do you have for students who will be taking their midterms soon?
When you start reviewing the material in whatever class you're doing, you'll often realize that you often know or recognize a lot of it already. So that's a good thing. Just the first thing, though, it's really important that you schedule some time to just go over the material. You'll want to review broad general concepts in this class to get a good understanding of material. You want to feel comfortable with these big general concepts first, and gather a little more details afterwards of that. You may not know these exact questions on the test, but if you know the general, larger concepts and then some details, you will be able to deduce those answers of specific test questions afterwards, and then they'll become easier. So, like, for example, if you're in organic chemistry, if you do not know what an acid or a base is, then, or if you do know what that acid or base is, then you'll be able to deduce what those possible reactions could be afterwards to that given problem. Because like an acid and a base, that's the basic concept. You won't be able to do with the reaction. You know what the general concept is. You don't have to really study for the right answers. You just have to study for the right concepts. Because that's what tests are doing. They're just really testing you for how well you know the knowledge of those concepts.
And how should students approach the material when they're actually at the test, in the classroom or behind a computer, I guess now, for online learning?
So I would say that a lot of classes now are leaning more towards the multiple choice types of options, because that's oftentimes a lot easier to kind of implement them with this computer type of learning. So with this multiple choice tests that you'll have in these type of classes, process of elimination is very important to kind of utilize. And so a great strategy that you always use with multiple choice tests is, elimination. You know that whenever you have this process of elimination, the best thing to do is that you can just eliminate these questions that you just know are wrong first. So that's also where you can apply these general concepts that you know. So if I broadly know that, I know that this is going to relate to this area, so these answers obviously don't relate to that at all, you can usually kind of whittle it down to one or two answers. So then once you kind of go to those one or two answers, then you can kind of go back to the question, read it at a little faster pace, and then usually one will kind of stick out to you a little bit more, because kind of looking at it from a different point of view will kind of give you a better perspective of how that question is. Yeah, and so because these multiple choice questions or multiple choice tests, they a lot of times try to do applied questions. They try to apply your knowledge. So that's the things you can't really study for just what the answer is going to be. They want to apply what your concepts and how you know them and how you can use them in different types of ways.
Bernard, what kind of advice could you offer our OLLU students who are getting ready to take their first economics midterm?
Look, there's no secret to success in an economics class here in OLLU. Your professor put on the test everything they worked on in class or assigning the homeworks. So the only thing you have to do to be ready for the test is to keep up with everything in the class. Ask questions during class time, or ask questions about the homeworks, either to the professors or to tutors as well, and you'll be fine. Sometimes the wording for the homeworks problem will match or be very similar to the ones you see in the test. There are always sometimes going to be minor changes, but the idea will be the same if you have stayed on the top of your homework and you know how to solve the problem on the test. If you haven't kept up with the homework, it may help you to know that many of the exams are multiple choice and problem solving. Okay? So during the test, a good strategy that works not only for me, but to other people as well, is to pace myself. The best way to pace yourself is not to spend too much time on a question that you may not get on the first attempt. So for example, if I don't get the question the first try, I'll give you 1 or 2 more tries. If I still don't get the answer, I'll leave it blank and I'll come back to it later. The reason behind that is because you might find the answer when you're doing the other questions. And when you're done with all the other questions, you know how much time you have left, so you can manage your time to work on the ones you left unanswered. Okay? So reading is the key to understand and recognize all those concepts that will be needed for the exam. The multiple choice questions will often cover the concepts of the reading, like elasticity, quantity demanded, etc. Okay? So it's okay. Maybe the first test can be tough, but if you stay persistent in everything that you're doing in class, you'll be fine in the test.
Next up are some tips for how to create that natural chemistry between you and your exams.
Hi, my name is Maddie, and I'm a chemistry tutor here at Our Lady of the Lake University. Today I'm here to give you 10 tips for how to take a general chemistry exam. Here are some tips for before the test. Keep up with the notes as you go, and if you're stuck on anything, ask questions by email, office hours, in class, or at the ACE Center. Check your homework with an answer key and/or with other people. Study any lecture, homework, or review problem that you find difficult and make sure to review it well once you find the solution. After completing the review, go back over your homework and make sure you can remember the ideas and concepts used in each question. You don't have to completely redo all the questions, but make sure that you would be able to. Here are some tips for during the test. First, identify what the question is asking. You need to understand what type of question it is to answer it effectively. This includes determining if the question is asking for a certain molecule's concentration, molar mass, amount in grams, etc. Circle and rewrite all important numbers and information from the problem and make sure to label all necessary variables. Keep track of your units, grams, moles, etc. as you go, and check them at the end to make sure that your units match what the units of the answer should be. Ignore any information or numbers not relevant to the question. Pace yourself. Don't spend too much time if you're stuck on a problem. Move on and come back later. Here are some tips for after the test. The main tip I would say is to review what you missed with your notes, other students, ACE tutors, and/or the professor, and make sure to correct it and learn from it for next time.
Midterms are stressful, but don't take yourself out of the equation just yet. We have some strategies that'll help you get to the square root of your exam.
Hello, I'm Dr. Cheshire, the Math Center Coordinator here in the Academic Center for Excellence, and here with me is our lead tutor, Sister Ann, and we would like to share with you some of our ideas on how to approach studying for a math test, as well as some advice on effective strategies for taking a math test.
Let's start with a few comments on preparing for the test. You may have a review or a practice test. If your instructor gives you something like that, that is gold. Treasure it. Sleep with it under your pillow. You see, it's extra work for the professor to do this, and she or he does it to help you prepare. So, the content on the practice test is very likely to be like the problems on your test. So, it would be very smart of you to make sure you understand everything on that practice test. Work all the sample problems. If you're unsure of some of the topics or problems, get help at the Math Center.
This brings us to the idea of time management. Another use of the test review is to get a feel for how long each type of problem should take you to solve. Practice each question on the review several times and note how long it takes each time. When it comes time to take the test, before you begin, take a minute to look it over. Do not panic. Note how many problems there are and place a circle next to all the problems you think that you know how to do quickly. Put a square next to the problems you think that you can do but will take more time, like word problems. And if you're unsure how to do or start a problem at all, leave it blank. You can begin by working on the problems you can do quickly and then move to the more time-consuming problems. Once you finish these problems, it will be time to work on those you're less comfortable with, and you may find them easier once you've warmed up with the problems you solved first. Lastly, use all your time. If you finish working on all the problems you know how to do, then recheck your answers in the original problem. Then look back over the problems you were unsure of.
Sometimes you will be taking online tests, and many of those do not allow for partial credit. So you want to read the instructions very carefully and take note of important details about how the answers should be entered. For example, should answers be rounded to some place value? Be in simplified fraction form? Double check your answers before entering them. I remember one time a student getting an answer wrong because she said the answer was 4/2 instead of 2. But she didn't answer it the way it was required. You probably will be allowed to use your calculator. Be familiar with the calculator you plan to use on the test and practice with that one. Use it for all but the simplest calculations. But remember, it's still possible to make mistakes with a calculator. You can use your common sense to make sure the answers your calculator displays are reasonable. Do your best to estimate each answer and compare. For example, does it make sense for the answer to be negative? Is the answer much larger or smaller than your estimate?
In some math classes, the test may have a written portion that will allow you to earn partial credit for the work you show, even if you don't get the correct answer in the end. For this part of the test, be sure to label any problems you work out on a separate sheet of paper. Carefully show every step as neatly as possible and circle or box your answer clearly. Make it easy for your instructor to see what you have learned.
Be very careful with reading the questions. If you're asked to solve a problem in a specific way, it will not be correct if you solve it in a different way, even if you get the correct answer.
Many of your tests will have multiple choice questions. These can be tricky. First, try to eliminate the answer choices that you are sure are wrong. Don't be too quick to choose an answer. People who make tests are going to give you some very attractive answers, and all but one of them is going to be wrong. Don't do the work in your head. Work out each problem on scratch paper. Even though you won't be turning in this work, it will help you to think about the problem more clearly. And also, watch for clues in your answer choices. If you know that the answer has to be in square feet, for example, and there's only one answer in that form, well, you found your answer.
And finally, answer everything. If you see a problem that you have no idea how to solve, read it again and think about it. And read it again and think about it. If you've been in class and or done your homework, you probably know at least a little bit about the problem. If you put no answer down, then your answer is clearly wrong. So at least put something down. Perhaps you could write a little note to the professor telling him or her anything you do know about the problem. You may be right, or you may just entertain your professor.
The last piece of advice we will give you to succeed on your next math test is to make an appointment with us at the Math Center and let us help you study. We have a number of peer and professional tutors ready to work with you every weekday. They are happy to help and available at no additional cost to you. We wish you happy studies and a great semester ahead.
Wow. Lots of great information, direct from our tutoring staff. Remember, you can make appointments for online sessions with all of our tutors. Instructions and the link to the scheduler are in the description box below. If you have something you want to share with us, a study strategy, or an idea for a future episode, show us your hand by emailing us at writing@ollusa.edu. We'll throw it up on the screen for you. Also check out our Instagram, @OLLU_ACE, where we share news and announcements about upcoming content and new projects. Thanks for watching Playing the Ace. New episodes are out on Tuesdays, so make sure you subscribe to our YouTube page and follow our social media for announcements. Wear your mask, vote, and spread some kindness. We'll see you next week, and remember, don't gamble with your academic success.
Playing the Ace is a new web series from OLLU's Academic Center for Excellence. Every week we will be talking about elements and strategies that can help you develop as a learner. Join us and enhance your learning experience.